Hi, everybody. This is Crypto Rich, working with you to get rich with crypto, filling our pockets with crypto profits. I have with me Synth. He is the lead dev and co-founder of the Skycoin project, one of the oldest cryptocurrency projects going. We're going to be getting an update on what's happening with Skycoin, the latest, plus also in this conversation, a look at the cryptocurrency markets in general, and Synth's take on what is happening in the world right now. Now, please subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Crypto Rich YT. Join my official Telegram.
Stab yourself in the neck. Get a voice. Get like
Join my official Telegram announcements channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, come over to BitTube or Bitchute or Lbry or Odyssey, because not all of this video is going to be on YouTube. You just need to know that the stuff about Skycoin will be on YouTube, and I don't know about the other bits. Definitely not. Now, if you're interested in finding which are the best altcoins to hodl, to trade in, I invite you to take a look at token metrics. Now, you can see here in red is the actual price of Ethereum over the last year or so. But in blue, the blue dotted line is the predicted price using token metrics, artificial intelligence analysis, and also their human intelligence analysis. They have a great team of people who look at all the major projects and look and see where's the price likely to go. I invite you to use my affiliate link, bit.ly/tokenmetrics discount, and you can trial it for a week for a few dollars. And should you decide to subscribe to a package, you get a significant discount if you use my affiliate link. Hey, good afternoon where you are, Sin. Thank you so much for making yourself available. And do you want to start? Let me say a little bit about Skycoin, and then you can add anything that's missing for anybody who isn't familiar. So Skycoin is one of the oldest cryptocurrency projects going. It is a improvement on many of the problems that beset Bitcoin. So it uses a different consensus protocol, and I've forgotten the name of it. What's the name of it, Synth?
Obelisk.
Obelisk. But the proof of...
it's like proof of trust. It's,
proof of trust, right? You can mine Skycoin yourself off a miner, but it actually doesn't do any mining. It has much faster transaction times than Bitcoin, and you can build platforms on top of it. And we have all sorts of developments going on with the project in the next few months and weeks and years to come. And what the Skycoin are building is a decentralized internet, censorship resistant, free, where people can express themselves freely, like in terms of freedom of speech, and can't be taken down. All right, Synth, anything you want to add to that?
No, that's good. So yeah, so Skycoin is basically it's a new networking we have a blockchain, of course, and we have a token. But that's, it's a token, whatever. And we're doing this new consensus algorithm called Obelisk, and it's been really delayed. I don't want to get into it, but it's the best consensus algorithm, and we benchmarked it. But in terms of integration, we're still, there's a lot of stuff that we have to do, and it's mostly not even for Skycoin. It's for we think in the future there's going to be 100 million blockchains. So you're going to have a blockchain for your Twitter. You're going to have another blockchain yourself for your YouTube. You're going to have a blockchain for your social media. Your friend's going to have his blockchain. If you have a company and you have stock, private shares on that, that's going to be on blockchain. So a lot of data that we store, like for a company, the shares, the things, all that's going to be on its own blockchain. It's not going to be on Ethereum where you're paying $20 dollars a transaction. I had a friend, he just did an Ethereum transaction. It cost him $18. I was like, what? And so we're going to need 100 billion blockchains, and we're just using blockchain like a database, right? So we have a database platform called Fiber, which is using blockchain as a database. We have a programming language called CX to write applications running on the blockchain. It's a full programming language. It's not a smart contract language. So it could do things that Ethereum and the smart contracts is bullshit. This is a full programming language. You can run any program that you can run on a desktop now on blockchain. But we're using blockchain as a database, and then for these millions of blockchains, we have this consensus algorithm called Obelisk, and it's on the implement. Anyway, I don't want to get into the whole development history, but we're integrating these things one at a time. And the next thing that we're implementing, so we just finished Skywire, the mainnet, and we're launching a consumer VPN product running on top of Skywire. And it's been out for a while, but you still have to install it as if you were a software developer. So we have a nice, easy version that you just double click something, run it like a normal program on your computer, one-click installer. So we packaged it up so you don't have to be a software developer anymore to run this VPN. And we added a GUI, like a web interface, so you can toggle settings and things like that. So that's exciting, and that's coming out very soon. I think next release, I don't know when it'll be, like a week, 2 weeks, a month, but the next release will have the new VPN version. So there's a lot of different things within Skycoin. It's huge.
Just on the VPN, it's just about the GUI for the VPN. So that's going to be out in the next 2-3 weeks or so. If somebody wants to run the VPN, do they have to have a Sky miner or a Skywire?
No. So we package the node. It's called Visor, and you just double click and it runs. So everything is packaged, and it can run on any computer now. So you don't need a SkyMiner anymore to run the node. But if you do have a SkyMiner nodes, you can actually connect them to what's called the hypervisor, and you can use that in order to make it faster.
Okay. All right. And then what will the charges be for the VPN, or is it going to be free?
There's no charges right now, and we're implementing bandwidth metering, and we might have a free level, and then we'll have like a level where you pay coin hours. But we're still trying to figure that out. But basically, we have so much bandwidth and so many nodes right now, it's not worth charging anything for it. So but we're
Okay.
going to get bandwidth metering into, especially when we have companies or people using larger amounts of data. Like if I have some guy and he has 10,000 employees and he's using this for his VPN for his whole company, and and it's going to hammer our network. So we need to figure out how to charge him something so that we can pay the users more money to run more nodes, because like we have a guy in Vietnam, and he's using it for his software company for their VPN, and it's a lot of people. It's like, if you have 400 people running on this thing, okay, it'll no problem. But if it's 10,000 people, then we have to start looking at like how much resources we have and how many servers, and so we'll get that out. It's one step at a time, because software is another thing we have that I found out is there's a lot of, after the election. So our thing was working perfectly. All of the D-message and all of our backend infrastructure was working perfectly. But after this election, there's like global level cyber attacks, and my VPN, I'm seeing like weird stuff. I don't. Everything was working perfectly. We have like regression tests, and we have tests to see that the things are working, and everything was perfectly right. And then after the election, there's some cyber warfare crap going on, and um, I have no idea what it is, but it seems to be affecting some of our infrastructure. So we're trying to figure out, basically decentralize and add resiliency to certain parts of our backend infrastructure, because basically, I don't want to talk about politics in this video, but we're going into this. The internet's unstable. Websites are getting blocked. We're seeing a lot of weird things happening with the internet, and websites are going to be disappearing, or the ISPs are going to be blocking certain IP addresses, and the Chinese firewall, every week or every month, they always, for the users in China, they always change how they're screwing with the network for people connecting to outside the country. And now the U.S. and EU and Britain, they're going to start blocking websites. So we have to have our infrastructure ready for basically to be in the middle of this global cyber war, because they're going to start interfering with VPNs basically that don't provide the government with the website you're visiting, and they're passing new national security laws, and
Right.
they're going to start screwing with the providers. And if they don't give the data to the government, they're going to start cutting off those providers and doing a whitelist, and it's really nasty. It's going to get nasty. So we're getting it's the stormy weather ahead, and we're just like buckling everything down and getting ready for. We can talk about what I could spend 4 hours, and I'm actually exhausted after the election. I could go and I'll go in the next video a little bit overview of some of the changes that we're seeing with the governments and the
So we can do
regulatory
that. Then
changes.
it's,
But
we will do
some
that.
of that affects our core infrastructure. So one of the things we're doing is infrastructure hardening,
Well,
and that means taking all of our.
Hold on, hold on. Before you go to the infrastructure hardening, I've got some questions about the VPN, which tie into what you were saying, right? So I understand it's fully decentralized, so there's no central point of failure. Is it going to be available for Mac and Linux and Windows?
Mac, Linux, OS X, Android, and iPhone.
Wow. Okay. All right. And then people will be able to download it off the Skycoin website as well.
And the SkyMiner 2.0, there's going to be a hardware box that's dedicated hardware running the VPN. So it doesn't matter how hacked your computer is, or how wanky, or how many backdoors the government puts in, or whatever. You just plug your Ethernet cable into this box, and every packet that goes to the box will end up over the VPN. So this is and we might have a firewall, Skycoin firewall software, so you can like block Microsoft servers, or block ad servers, or block Google, or block Facebook tracking, and block whole like ranges of IP addresses. And um we might but at the very basics, every packet going through that hardware box is going to go right to the VPN. So that's a hardware VPN, and so we're working on things like that. But it's software is more, it takes like 1 month to get a piece of software working and then 8 months to debug it, which I don't really like the software development cycle, because we can get a prototype out and like that, like boom, oh, we're done. And no, you're not done. You have like 500 bugs, features, UI, packaging, testing under Windows, Linux, OS X. So you really, getting the product out is like that, right? But then actually doing all the stuff on the back end is it's a chore. It's a chore. It's a grind, really. So that's what we're in the middle of right now.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. So that's it on the VPN. Anything else you want to let us know about product development?
So we're seeing we're getting the CX 1.0 milestone out, which is the idea that we're going to be able to use CX to start hosting something like a 4chan and chat apps. And we see Telegram still online. I don't think they're going to be online for long. And I think it looks like all the governments, and we'll talk about this in the next video, are preparing a major crackdown on encryption and cryptography. And a lot of social media sites that we have, like Reddit and Twitter and Facebook, are censored to hell. So it's ridiculous, actually. And they're just sort of boring because all the good people were banned. So we're seeing social media sort of moving underground, and a lot of people like moving off Twitter to like Mastodon or Gab or Parler, and people moving to these other YouTube platforms and so on. So I think we're going to have some type of the CX 1.0 milestone means that we're going to be able to do a YouTube on blockchain or Twitter on blockchain, or have a 4chan or an internet forum on blockchain that's completely decentralized. So there's two modes of interacting with this. One, you can have a web browser and it'll connect to some proxy service and it'll do JSON requests and it'll come back to your web browser and you won't even know you're using blockchain. It'll just be a web browser, right? Through this public proxy. And the public proxy, what it does is it connects to a server that has a full copy of the data over dmessage, and then it's able to get JSON data, and the JSON data comes back to the browser. Your browser generates this nice page. So there's two modes to run this. One is a thin client. So if I want to access an image board or something, I can run it in two modes. One, I have a full copy of the blockchain, all the data, every post on the board, and I can access it locally without going to the internet. The second option is I use a thin client, meaning I connect over the internet and I get the data and get response like a web server. I don't have a full. So this new internet architecture, it works pretty well because I get a full local offline copy on my phone. I can copy the data. No one can take that data away from me. No one can change it, right? No one can block it because it's a full copy on my computer. So you're not going to the internet to get the data anymore. And the blockchain is peer-to-peer replicated. And these blockchains will run over Skywire. So which is its own networking protocol, and it acts very similar to Tor or a VPN. So there's no real ability to block them or even figure out what country the person who's hosting it is, or where their house is, or their IP address, or all that information is just they won't have. So it's going to be very difficult to block. And it's very interesting. So I want to get CX to the point that we're able to do something like an image board, and then we might do like a book club or a reading club, or we might do like an image, like a meme forum or shit posting forum, or I want to do something like fun at the beginning, not something I think too serious. And I want to just show that we can host these social media applications on blockchain, and get the 300 transactions per second, and basically unlimited reads, and basically just test the infrastructure to see how reliable it is and what the uptime and where the performance issues are, and the bugs, so we can start working on those. So that's a major milestone for Skycoin. And basically, because of what happened in the last few months with everything going on in the world, we had to really change. I have to redo all the roadmap in terms of we were going to do this, but now it looks like this is more important because of the stuff that's happening that we'll talk about in the next video, I guess.
Sure. Okay. And when do you envisage these blockchain applications in a public?
We have some of them running. Like we did Twitter a while, even months ago, but it's mostly about getting it so a developer can use it, and getting guides and tutorials and making it easier to use. It's not everything works, but it's just about, if I brought a new developer, can he get an app done in 2 hours, or an hour, or 10 minutes? So it's mostly just about cleaning things up right now, and doing documentation, and really, it's really annoying, actually. Really like housekeeping, cleaning your room, and things like that. And then so I think that anyway, that's going to be done very fast in terms of storing the data. But now what I'm thinking, has been sort of evolving. The way that I see that the internet has gone, there's companies that are using AI to basically, and I won't go into anything controversial on this because this will be on YouTube, but there's companies using AI and they're on Twitter, Facebook, Google, and they're creating botnets of hundreds of thousands of people for political purposes or to engage people in conversation or to manipulate political opinions. And these um, feeds that are generated by these bots, they use something that's called adversarial uh, neural networks. So they have they have a generative neural network. It generates text or tweets that look like a human being, even by copying the tweets off other people's Twitter. So you have a person and it's posting pictures of food and talking about this football game and this, and it suddenly just goes on this thing about like Pfizer or Biden or this, or starts messaging people or doing its thing, right? So this idea of this generative network is I have a neural network that generates text, right? That looks like a human being. And I have another network that tries to predict whether the text was from a computer or a human being. So I have text that's from a human and text generated by the computer. And the second network tries to guess which text is which. Which was the human being, which was the computer. And what it does is it gets rid of the errors, the grammatical errors, the weird things that let you tell that this was not generated by a human being, and it gets rid of those. So it filters it so that it is generating gibberish, but this filter removes all the gibberish and only leaves what a human would have wrote. So that you can't really even an algorithm can't tell whether this is a human being or a computer generated. So now you have these guys running 100,000 bots, 1,000,000 bots, 20 million bots, and they're doing so the Reddit's flooded, YouTube's flooded, Twitter's flooded, and they're doing things like trying to control narratives. And what we saw is people got sick of Reddit. They got sick of the bots, the censorship, the whore mod admins that were getting paid off by companies, and it looked like even intelligence agencies were getting involved on political issues to censor certain narratives on very large Reddit. So everyone's getting involved in this, manipulating the public with bots and paying off admins and editing Wikipedia, and every company, every government, everyone. It's a free for all now. Russia, China, U.S., GHCQ, everyone's doing it. There's 40 different groups in the U.S. doing this, and so when someone created this website called Vote, which was a copy of Reddit, they thought we're gonna have free speech. We have a new Reddit, and everyone moved over to Vote. And then they spammed it with the bots. And these bots were doing things like posting child porn, swearing at people, using racial slurs. They just like one of them had like a bot that was just like attacking like just attack Jews, attack black people, just spew a bunch of hate speech. And it wasn't even like a human being doing this. It's a bot. And so somebody wrote a bot, like a government, someone wants to take down Vote, they don't like it, so they write a bot to spew hate speech. So they say hate speech, hate speech. There's hate speech on Parler, there's hate speech on Gab. I don't think a lot of this is organic. I think a lot of this is, you have adversaries, you have people coming onto this forum and doing this stuff. And I don't want to get into details because there's some speculation, but I'll give you an example. There's a guy, and he was in a group that was involved in the protests on the 6th at the Capitol building, right? The FBI gets this guy. They go to his house. They grab him, right? They grab him, put him in custody, and they get his cell phone, and they unlock his cell phone, and they go in his Telegram group, and they unlocked the bot flood protection on his Telegram group. And then 1 minute later, he doesn't have his phone. The FBI have his phone. They're the ones doing this, of course. And then 1 minute later, his channel gets flooded with thousands of pictures of child pornography, which obviously was put there by the FBI, who just unlocked their phone. And then they're going to go looking at all these people in this room, and they're going to report the room to Telegram to get it banned, saying that it's full of child porn. Second thing is they're going to go to these people who were in this room and say they have child porn on their phone, and they're going to go arrest them and say that we arrested them for child porn because the FBI posted the child porn to a room to put it on their phone, right? And this is like, so, this is, and I don't even want to talk about this because it's really sickening, but this is like this is what's happening now. So the question I think for the future of social media, it's not just, so first question is, how do we get our data away from Facebook, Twitter, Google? So Skycoin did that. We went and we decentralized it on CX. We figured out how to do that. The second question is, now, how do we filter out shit? Like, we know these bots are going to come in, they're going to flood it with low quality content. And if there's 1 million posts per minute or per hour or per day, a human being isn't going to read through 1 million posts. So we have to say, how do we find the quality posts? How do we find get rid of the racial slurs and the useless bullshit and the things people are just going to spend 1 second on and move? move away from. And then, of course, how do we personalize it? So what I'm interested in is different than what another person is interested in. So we have to do a lot of filtering. So it's about machine learning, and it's about creating a high quality um, social media thing. So one of the things is I um, want to filter out all this junk. And it's coming from both sides. It's not on one side. A lot of it is like just racial agitation, and one side saying like kill white people, and then the other side saying, oh, look at this white person was killed by this black person, and it's just racial agitation. And it was like, okay, I was watching this, and do I really want to sit on social media all day looking at like black people, or like people saying kill whites, and then other people posting violence, or like black people attacking white people with baseball bats? Do I, it's just to get you agitated, get you emotional, get you, it's racial agitation. So on both sides, and they're both racist. The Democrats, they're doing racial
Okay,
agitation.
hold on a
So
second.
so here's a question: how do I tag something as determine that a post is racial agitation and get it out of my feed, right?
Yeah.
How do I? So this is going to be some type of machine learning based tagging system. People aren't going to sit there tagging these millions of posts by hand. So right now, what I'm looking at after I'm done with this hardening thing and done with the code review and the hardening, the next thing is getting the CX 1.0 milestone up, and then we're looking at getting like these Tesla GPUs and doing a lot of machine learning and collecting data sets and dealing with machine learning based tagging so that we can maintain quality. And I don't want to tell you like you can't see this, you can't see that. So what we're doing is we're moving the feed algorithm client side. So basically, you scrape all this stuff onto your SkyMiner or your computer or your cluster, or maybe your friend runs it, and then you choose what you want in your feed, which tags you want, what your like you have a vector of preferences, like positive preferences and negative preferences and quality thresholds, and you'll have sliders, and we want some way of the user to be able to filter through this stuff. And so this is, I think, what the next generation of social media is. It's first of all taking away the data storage from Google, Facebook, Twitter. We don't need them anymore. We have blockchain now. We can store our own data. It's not that bad. We have terabyte hard drives and all these computers, and very easy to store the data ourselves. We don't need these companies anymore. First of all, that's the first thing, most important thing. Secondly, we don't want them to control our feed. We don't want Facebook, Twitter, Google to control what they're putting in our face, because they're just exploiting us. Basically, they're manipulating us, they're screwing us, they're driving people into this racial agitation, which is basically going nowhere, and basically get them away from thinking rationally and get them excited and emotional like animals, and just get them to get some protesters straight, burn some things down. They get other protesters, go fight the first protesters, and where's this going? It's bullshit. It's bullshit. So we need to the next generation of social media, we need to end all this crap and figure out a way to go back to where we were, where people were discussing things on the internet. And I think a lot of companies or corporations or governments don't want that. They don't want people thinking. It's easier to control them if they're running around like animals, like fighting each other in the street. Like it's Bag America, like, yeah, let them kill each other. They don't care. But then these companies, the government, they let them kill each other. They don't. It's irrelevant to them. But when people were talking or they were discussing, like, what is the Federal Reserve? Why do we have this, and so on, and they're thinking about these things, it's not something they wanted them thinking about. So then they want to get them into this left versus right, blacks attacking whites, and it's just.
We'll come to that.
The next.
We'll come to that. Keep it to Skycoin development.
No. This is Skycoin development. This is the only reason that I'm doing the social media is to get rid of this crap, because I'm sick of it. I'm just absolutely going through this lecture. I'm sick of it, and there's no future for social media unless we get control of our data back, and we allow the user to control the feed ranking, and be able to identify and filter all this bullshit, this agitprop. And otherwise, every single people are just turning off their cell phones because they don't want to do this. If you turn off your cell phone for a week, you feel great, you feel happy. You turn on your cell phone, you feel miserable, you feel depressed, you feel like the world's ending, you feel demoralized, you feel terrible. So the social media is a weapon that's destroying people. It's just attacking them. So Skycoin social media, I want to just it's to get rid of all this demoralizing crap and just filter it out. That's what we're doing. That's the next step. So I spent the last week just going through how, on a technical level, how do we store the post? How do we filter this? How do we allow the user to adjust these settings themselves, and so on. So first thing is the CXO 1 milestone. The second thing is going to be figuring out these content filters and the tagging and the architecture for doing this.
Sure.
So
any sort of timeline for this?
I think if we started, the demo would take like 2 days, but then it takes a week to do a product, and then packaging it and releasing it and testing it, and integration is the most annoying thing in the world, because we have eight or 10 executables, so we're merging them into this one thing called Visor. So Visor can launch the VPN. If we have a chat app, it'll be able to launch the chat app. If we have CX, it'll be able to launch CX, because I can't give a person 8 executables and expect them to be able to use it. So this packaging, this idea is, I have an app, and once it's working, we integrate it into this launcher, and it can launch all these apps. And we're in the middle of integration, and integration in software is not a good, yeah. But we're integrating, and so it could take us 1 week to write an app, and then 2 months to integrate it. So
Right. Okay.
whatever.
Okay. And then what else on the roadmap for Skycoin? What else is happening? You want to let people know?
There's a lot of stuff happening, but I think right now those two things are the hardening our infrastructure, getting all of our servers behind our network or VPN, and building out regional data cluster centers that have full copies of all the things that we need for network operations is something we're working on. Putting all of our services behind our virtual private network, and then having services relay it to the public over different providers, hardening like dmessage so that I can have multiple connections, so one gets blocked, who cares, and sort of dmessage is decentralized messaging. Now I'm gonna have like DD message, like double decentralized messaging, or decentralized messaging, or something, because it is a decentralized messaging protocol, and it works perfectly. But when they're jamming it, and they're inserting packets and the firewalls and screwing with your traffic, or whatever the hell's going on with the internet now, it doesn't work reliably. So we need to. So I'm working on a new, even more decentralized message that uses other things, so anyway, and then just so there's that, and there's UI improvements for the VPN, and testing the VPN, and fixing small bugs and things like that.
Okay.
And then the next thing is, of course, CX, and then once we're storing the social media data, then of course machine learning, filtering, deep learning, generative. We have some machine learning PhDs, so we can go and start collecting data. We have to prepare data sets. We have to have them create tags, things like that. And we have to figure out how we're going to manage these tags. And another big thing is, if you have a blockchain for your Twitter, and your friend has a blockchain, and someone else has a blockchain, we have to have an index. So I have to be able to search it. And that means when I'm doing a search, I have to have everyone's Twitter. So I have to build at least, so you can have your data on your computer, but I still have to build a data center that will have a copy of all the tweets, so we can index them, so that when you do it, so you can discover new people, so we can do recommendation and search, because that's an operation that can only be done just distributing the tweets. No one can censor you, right? Because everyone will have, who subscribe to that feed, will have a full copy of the feed. But then if I want to do like global search over everything in the universe, then we have to have an architecture for that. So Mastodon did a very good job at just providing federated Twitter, but it doesn't have the ability to do search outside of one server or one cluster. So we're dealing with that, and dealing, development operations, and
not an easy task, I imagine, right? No,
it's not that hard, but it's a lot of small things. This thing, they're all small, but there's a lot of them.
Yeah. Now, there's going to be no value to any of this, to the VPN or the blockchain social media, without any sort of marketing, because the trick is to get people who aren't in the world of crypto to use it.
We have 70 million or 100 million people in the United States right now that are absolutely pissed. If you look at Facebook, they peaked about a year ago, and they're falling off a cliff, and they're padding their traffic and doing all this bullshit to make it look like it's still going up. But really, people are turning off. They're disengaging, because social media, it used to be about blogs and people, and it used to be interesting. But now the whole thing is just about politics and racial agitation, and they're about trying to nudge you. They're trying to push you, manipulate you, control you. So you used to go to social media, like look at house pictures, or look at cat photos, or you would go there and or machines, or some guy made his little rocket, and I would find interesting content. But when I go to social media today, it's like about black people saying "kill whites," and white people like having photos of black people playing knockout game, killing them, and it's just about racial agitation, and it's about making you neurotic, and it's about demoralizing you, and it's about lying to you.
Marketing sense. How will you get?
We're going to ban CNN. We're going to ban the New York Times. We're going to tag all the social justice warriors. We're going to kick them off the internet. We're going to classify the people into human beings, whether the person can reason and whether or not they have reason, they can state facts and reason. And if they're unable to reason, they're no longer a human being. They're going to be labeled as an NPC. We're going to tag them and we're going to limit. I don't even care if they're a human being. I don't even care if they can prove they're alive. If they cannot use reasoning, if they cannot respond to facts or information, and they're just so brainwashed, they're gone. We're going to filter them out.
Okay, but how are you going to
we're gonna
what are you going to do to get, joking apart, what are you going to do to get the word out about these Skycoin products? What plans do you have in mind, if any?
that's the easy part. That's
Okay.
the easy part. So basically, I didn't want to do this, but I don't have a choice. This is like I wanted to stay away from this. It's a shit throwing. It's like a bunch of monkeys throwing shit at each other.
Yeah.
And it's like if a bunch of monkeys are throwing shit at each other, why are you going to go in the middle and join in the shit slinging contest? And but I just don't like the way that this is going. I'm seeing what this is doing to society, to human beings, and people, they're having their minds destroyed.
Yeah,
They're
we will
being
come to that.
destroyed.
We will come to that. We will come to that. Anything else you want to? There is one other thing I want to ask you about the Skycoin. But anything else you want to say that we haven't covered about Skycoin, the project?
Oh, so basically, no. So the VPN, CXO 1.0, social media, and then we're trying to figure out the product for this. So what I'm talking about is the product for social media, what the objectives are, and so that's what I'm talking about. Is I'm trying to think what is it that I want. I don't want to just have a decentralized Twitter or decentralized Reddit because it's not enough. It's not enough. So I want to go to the next generation. I want to go to the third or fourth generation of social media, not the second gen, right? And so what is my that's my personal conception of what that would be, was just giving more control to the user and letting them filter things and more focus on content discovery, which is a positive thing. It's discovering new content from people that you aren't necessarily subscribed to that's interesting to you, and not just things that get you an emotional reaction, which is how Facebook and Twitter algorithms are designed, is to keep you on the website as long as possible and to get an emotional reaction. And the second thing is negative filters, things that are demoralizing or diversive, or things that you don't want to see or shouldn't see or that make you unhappy. You want to remove those, eliminate those. So I think that the next generation, besides the centralization, is the positive filters and negative filters. And I don't want to. And the back end for that is, of course, machine learning and these, very $8,000 expensive Tesla GPUs with 32 gigabytes of RAM, and server clusters for processing 800 gigabytes of data per minute. And you look into this stuff, this deep learning and these filtering, the good ones. You're looking at like $100,000 to build a data center that can process a social media network for 70 million people, that can do these filterings and do this type of tagging. And so that's what I'm looking at now, is the hardware and the software and the infrastructure and data sets and just and that's a really big thing. So I wanted to get back to smart contracts and consensus and things like that. But this year, I think, so my initial plan for this year was I was going to get Skywire done, and then we were going to do the VPN, get the VPN done. Then we were going to do community mesh networks, and we're still going to do that, of course. But after the election, after the shit show started, my priority, and CX was going to be in the background, right? And the hardware wallet was going to be in the background below that. My new conception, I think, what the direction for the roadmap we want to take, everything's still in progress. But the question is, what are the 2 or 3 things that we have to do now that are going to be critical? And I think that the highest priority thing now is the Skywire, the VPN, hardening, which wasn't a priority before because the internet wasn't under attack. Now the internet's under attack. So hardening matters a lot more in reducing our attack surface than it did last year. Now it's critical. Nothing will operate on the current internet in the middle of this shit show without this being done. The second and the other thing is like security, because and I'll talk about this in the next video about these national security laws coming in and what they're going to do to your computer, which is ridiculous. It's absolutely shameless. And why we need to harden our infrastructure. And then I think the social media, because I'm sick of it. It's making me nauseous. It's making me sick. So I need to, and this isn't gonna be something that's going on for the next 2 years, next 4 years until we find a solution. And I don't think after what happened with Twitter, Facebook, Google, I don't think they're gonna survive. They're gonna get kicked out of countries like Poland, Australia, Brazil. They're just gonna be banned, pushed out, fined to death until they pull out. And we're really looking at the fragmentation of the whole global internet right now. So this is something I've been talking about for years, and people said, like, I told them, and they didn't know what I was talking about. And then it happened, and like, oh, you mentioned that, everything you said that was going to happen happened, and it's basically, I knew that this was going to happen. I said maybe 40 times it was going to happen over and over and over again, but I didn't believe that it was going to happen, because I don't feel like I believed it was going to happen, because watching it happen is shocking to me. So if I said 100 times this was going to happen, why is it so shocking and disturbing to me actually watching it happening, right?
Yeah.
It's just like I had no idea it was going to happen like this. So I think that.
Okay. Okay. Well, let me ask you one last thing, and then about the project, and then we can move on to talk about cryptocurrencies, and then the state of the world as you see it, right? So I think since we last spoke, Skycoin is in more exchanges, P2P.
It's on like 25 exchanges. They're not even all listed on CoinMarketCap. Yeah, there were like 4 more new exchanges.
Right. Anything else happening there with regards to more exchanges?
Yeah. So basically, I think that we're going to hit a shock. And right now, the only liquidity is on the largest exchanges, which are Binance. Like, I think even OKX is sort of faltering, and a lot of the bigger exchanges like Bitfinex, Polonex, a lot of Bittrex, they died. Their volume fell off a cliff, and a lot of them changed to basically being a crypto exchange for institutional investors, like Coinbase did, and their volume is gone. And a lot of people moved to offshore exchanges and to non-KYC exchanges. So a lot of the volume that was on these public exchanges went underground, and it's sort of hidden somewhere, or it's being done in OTC desks being run out of New Jersey that say that are incorporated in the Caymans or something like that. So a lot of the crypto market, all the big exchanges that worked with the government and did KYC compliance and petered to institutional investors, are dead, right? Their volume's gone. And most of the trading volume is on these large exchanges. And I think we're going to have some surprises in the next year that are going to severely fragment the crypto markets, to the point that there may not, in the next 2 years, there may not be a dominant exchange. But right now, everything except the top 4 is dead. It's dead. There's no volume.
And what about a DEX, Skycoin appearing on a DEX? Any plans for that?
We have a method. Of enabling decentralized trading, and that's always been there just in case, as a backup, because of course we need to maintain liquidity of Skycoin if something catastrophic were to occur with regards to the exchanges and government regulation. And we can talk, and this isn't related to crypto, but we had to have backup plans for this. And I can talk about in the next video what the governments are going to do in terms of regulation, and what some of the scenarios that we could see are.
That would be good.
And I think it's going to, it could potentially be catastrophic for the crypto market, because the government's, we can talk about this in the next video.
We'll do this in the next video. Okay. Well, listen, Synth, thank you so much. And in the next video, we'll talk about cryptocurrencies and how you see that going. And then the one after that, we'll talk about the politics.